Hey team, welcome back to the channel, man. As always, I'm stoked to see you. Today we're going to be going over some actual board questions that were asked that a lot of the board people who are attending had some issues with, man. If this is something that you're interested in, make sure you like, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell so you can stay up to date on some future content, and even more important, man, make sure you drop some comments down below. That way we can continue to keep this conversation rolling. On that note, I'm going to shout out a quick little shout out to my biggest sponsor, and that's America. Oh yeah. Alright, so the very first question, and by the way, all of this is for entertainment purposes only. This is Stoker's opinions and only my own. I gotta say the kind of stuff like that. So the first question is, you have a soldier who's on the ABCP program, and maybe because of being in isolation or quarantine, or because they were on leave, or for whatever reason, they miss a month of being taped. So they have a month that is missing where they don't have their 5500s or 5501s. What do you do? Now, as we go, I want to explain a few things to you as far as how to present yourself to the board, okay? So one of the things I think that people often do is that they lack some experience, and so that garners a lack of confidence, if that makes sense. So one of the things I think you need to do when you're appearing before the board is talk story, okay? I know you're talking to seniors, right? I get that, and I get that there's a level of anxiety that comes with that. But if you get into the habit of being able to and rehearse talking out loud, right, when you're going over your board study questions and things of this nature, and you're reading regs and you're doing mock boards, and make sure that you're talking out loud, and then make sure that you are speaking from as much of experience as you can. Like, hey, you know, First Sergeant, we actually had this happen, and here's what we did. That would be a great way, because it's talking about your experience. Hopefully your experience was within regulatory guidance. But here's the deal. So some folks will try to backdate, you know, 5500s, 5501s. By the way, you need two every single time, two different teams. And so if somebody misses, it's not a big deal. So you know that, you know, once a soldier is enrolled in the Army Body Composition program, they need to start making progress, right? And so satisfactory progress, loss of 3 to 8 pounds or 1%, right? So if somebody misses a month, that is due to circumstances outside of anybody's control. All you need to do is write a memorandum for record, and, you know, talk with your legal department to make sure that it's saying all the things that they need you to say in it. But ultimately it's okay. So that month is just not going to have be counted as a month of satisfactory or non-satisfactory progress. Doesn't mean that their enrollment was erroneous. It doesn't mean that that sort of administrative error, as it would be, is going to be held against the soldier or against the command. So it is what it is. So you write a memorandum for record, and as soon as you can, you go ahead and get those 5500s or 5501s completed and taken care of, and now you are good to go to keep moving forward. So if the soldier had like one missed month, or one month of satisfactory progress, and then they missed that month, and then the next month is non-satisfactory progress, that's not 2 months of non-satisfactory progress in a row. You would start off on that third month, right, on that when you retaped again. And then if they had a couple more non-satisfactory months, then they could be potentially separated. So hope that helps. So the next question is, you got a soldier who reports into your unit, and they're waiting on their household goods. You know, everything got slowed down and backed up, and it's still kind of stuck in transit or whatever happened. And they've moved into a place on post, we'll say, but they don't have anything. What do you do? Right, so one of the first things that you need to do is revamp your sponsorship program. You should know and be able forecast a little bit better soldier issues before they happen. But you know, things happen, and so a soldier comes in and they don't have anything. So hey, you know what, First Sergeant, I'm going to take this soldier down to the lending closet. I don't send somebody somewhere for support. I take them with me. That leader presence is tantamount, if that's even a word, to building a quality, cohesive team. You have to be present. And so you take them to the lending closet where they can sign for all the pots, pans, bedding, and things of this nature. And you know, you reach out, you talk to your chaplain because they probably have some vouchers if need be for food. You know, if needed, you could do a loan from, you know, AAR or something. But I would caution against that because, you know, loans have to be paid for. But there also might be some other charitable organizations. It could be AUSA, depending on some more specifics of the situation. That could also help out. And then you also, you know, could lend some of your stuff to this new coming family to help welcome them a little bit more into the organization and into the area. Right, you're going to the field and you're getting ready to, you tell your troopers, hey, we're going to do some PCCs, right? And so specifically, walk me through how you're going to conduct PCCs, especially as it relates to hygiene. Now, this question, depending on who's asked and who's being asked, is probably a setup. Right? It's probably a setup. Now, what I mean by that is, if you are a male soldier, I'm probably setting you up to come in sideways at you about female hygiene. Or if you are a female soldier, I could be coming at you about male hygiene. You know, it just, questions like this are often a setup for a second level of question. And you need to be prepared for that and make sure that your answer, that first answer applies equally as much as you can with everything in every kind of circumstance, and leaves the door open to be able to shift left or to shift right without contradicting yourself, okay? So you're going to conduct PCC. So you gave your soldiers a packing list 2 weeks prior and said, on the specific date, we're going to conduct some PCCs at the COF, right? And so you have everything laid out and you start going down by the numbers. Now, specifically as it relates to hygiene, I'm going to look for soap, washcloth. I'm gonna look for baby wipes. I'm going to look for towels, shower shoes. Right? If you've ever had to step in some wet junk, you know how important shower shoes are, right? Now, how about them female soldiers? Well, it's the same thing. And if it's that time of the month, then I'm going to make sure they have all the sanitary needs that they need to take care of themselves, and or take some anyways, because we're not coming back, right? Once we go out to the field, we are not coming back. Well, what are you going to do about showers out in the field? Don't females have to shower every 3 days? No, females are not required to shower every 3 days, right? That is not what the regulation says. There's no specific timeline. So what you do, depending on the duration that you're going to be out in the field, is you establish some field showers, right? Maybe it's a pallet inside of a tent. You warm up some water in a canteen. And you take care of yourself. By the way, toothpaste, toothbrush, all that stuff. Take care of your teeth, right? Take care of your teeth. But how I take care of the sanitation for one person is essentially no different than somebody else. Obviously, our female soldiers have a few different needs, you know, because people are different. But that doesn't mean that the process and the procedures that we put into place should be all that different. Have all your stuff, have facilities that are ready, and monitor. Check on the performance. Are people actually washing their butt? Or are they just telling you that they're washing your butt? And that's the important thing about doing PCCs, is it is a check. It is not an interview. Hey, Joe, do you have? Because once you start asking questions, a soldier's just going to tell you what they think you want to hear. You have to physically check and then lock that stuff up. Speaking of going to the field, you're getting ready to dispatch your equipment, and you've been asked or tasked to provide a fresh risk assessment for that convoy. Talk to us about what you're going to do, how you're going to do this. Okay, so you know, when we're talking risk assessment, you should be doing this on a deliberate risk assessment worksheet, right? And of course you have all your administrative data on the top and your operations order as it relates to going to the field or whatever it is. And you want to start thinking about your subtasks that you have for the particular activity. If it's just a convoy, and if that's what this draw is being done for, then you may not have a lot of subtasks, and that's okay. But if it was like an overall for the field, going to the field, then you would talk about convoys, and you could talk about, you know, personnel movement, and, you know, actions on the objective, and all that other kind of stuff. But either way, you want to try to list out all the subtasks that you have, should you have any, and then you want to start listing out all of the individual risks or hazards for that task. Whether it's a vehicle breakdown, whether it's traffic on the road, you know, route planning, all the things of this nature, and then list out what you're going to do to help mitigate those risks and reduce them, right? Reduce those hazards to a manageable risk level. And then it'll be signed by the appropriate authority, depending on the residual risk level. Most cases for a convoy is probably going to be low. If it's not, and if you're not in theater, there's probably a problem. And you want to make sure that you follow up and assess on the back end if those control measures were working. So it's pretty straightforward, and I'm sure that you've done a draw, so just talk about your experience. And if you haven't done a draw, man, you need to. It's super easy to do. And there's a lot of resources out there to help make sure that you stay on the right path. Soldier calls you while they're on leave, and they tell you that they're considering hurting themselves. What are your actions? So it may sound like a crazy hypothetical, but I think if we look throughout our formation, things like this unfortunately happen quite a bit, whether it's somebody who's on leave or somebody who's local or whatever the case is. In this case, somebody's not local, so that presents some unique challenges, right? So, you know, going back to being present, you want to make sure that you stay on the phone for as long as you can and help be present with that individual. You know, you're not in a place where you can send somebody to a counselor. You need to be, as much as you can, that counselor for that service member. And doing so means that you need to listen more than you are speaking. And then when you do speak, I would talk about open-ended questions. How does that make you feel? When did you first start feeling this way? What do you think you want to do tomorrow? Or whatever it is, right? But make sure that you do ask that question of, you know, hey, I hear you say that you want to hurt yourself. Are you telling me that you have considered taking your own life? You have to ask that hard question, because you don't want to assume yes or assume no. That is the one, you know, closed question. You can ask a lot of open-ended questions in that process, but you need to ask that yes or no question so that there is no misunderstanding of what the intentions are, okay? So go through and start talking, be present, and of course during it, you know, who would you feel most comfortable with speaking in your area? Like, do you have a church? Do you have a pastor or a rabbi or whatever? Do you have some friends and close friends or family who is near you? What are their phone numbers? Can I talk to them? Does that make sense? And you stay talking to them. And the reason I would even talk about, you know, getting those phone numbers is because after we hang up, it helps promote some accountability and continuance of care. Like, hey, yeah, you know, I'll call Bob, and they never call Bob, right? So you want some, as much as you can, some accountability without it looking like you're trying to force something on this person, right? So you can call Bob, be like, hey man, you know, Joe's gonna call you. He's hurting, he's struggling right now. I need you to check in on him. You can call Military One Source, right? Hopefully you have a number for things like your chaplain in your phone that you can pass on. You know, behavioral health phone numbers that you could pass on. Again, Military One Source is a great one-stop shop in order to reach out and get connected to other agencies and resources. And Military One Source offers like 6, well, it's basically paid through the VA, from what I understand, 6 visits with a off-post counselor at no charge, right? So you don't have to go to your behavioral health on post if you are concerned about some sort of stigma, which I don't believe actually exists. The stigma may be out there for some people, but I don't believe that there's as many seniors out there who look down on behavioral health issues as what a lot of us may think. So you can talk to an off-post provider in person or virtually on the phone, whatever. 6 visits paid for, 100%. Check in with the individual a couple times a day. Talk to them, see how they're doing. Be real, be present. Maybe even do some video chats with them as opposed to just a telephone call with them. Seeing somebody and their facial responses and their gestures tells a story of things that are not being told audibly, right? It's also an easier way for you to help demonstrate genuine concern. Something to think about. And of course, you'd want to make sure that you inform your NCO support channel or chain of command so that they're aware of the soldiers' problems and what you're doing to assist and or what assistance you need to help take care of that service member. Team, just a short conversation about a few questions from a previous board. I hope you got something out of it. Either way, man, drop some comments down below. That way we can continue to keep this conversation rolling. Man, I appreciate all you guys. You stay out there, you keep grinding, and you stay stoked.